Hello everybody, welcome back to 100 horror movies. This week we are going over the 1931 Frankenstein, which is adapted from the 1927 play based off of the Mary Shelley's novel from 1818. I will say right off the bat, this is going to be a rant video. This one really got me motivating, got me moving, so I want to start off by saying that I like this movie and I definitely recommend it, especially if you're into the classic horror films. This one filled me with so many emotions, and I am 100% on the side of the monster, and I want it to be on record, I want to say on record, that I hate that he is called a monster. Because Frankenstein's monster, who I'm going to refer to as Frankie in this, gets done so dirty throughout this entire movie. Frankenstein is a classic and has spawned so many remakes and sequels and spin-offs, including the classic Young Frankenstein from Mel Brooks. But for as long as I can remember, the three constants in every version was, of course, Frankenstein's monster, Victor Frankenstein, and Igor, or however you say it. In this movie, it is Dr. Henry Frankenstein, and his assistant is Fritz, played by Dwight Frye, who was Renfield in Dracula, which we watched a couple of weeks ago. And every time I heard Dr. Frankenstein referred to Fritz, I was like, I kept saying to myself, who the hell is Fritz? But by the time I was just about ready to get used to it, something happened that made me very happy. So we know how this story starts, but I want to introduce a couple of the characters before we get into the breakdown for it. We have Colin Clive, who plays Henry Frankenstein, or Dr. Frankenstein in this. Mae Clark, who is his fiancée, plays Elizabeth. John Bowles is Victor Moritz. And hearing of Victor in the movie, but it not be Victor Frankenstein, messed with my head a lot of the time. Boris Karloff as the monster in this, and I hate that he's called a monster. Frederick Kerr as Baron Frankenstein, and Edward Van Sloan as Dr. Waldman, an associate of Dr. Frankenstein. And, of course, Dwight Frye as Fritz. Fritz. Ugh. Okay, so, we know the story starts with a mad scientist and his hunchback helper who build a man. And of course, the first hiccup in this is the unreliable assistant grabs the wrong brain. He grabs the... there are two jars on the table, the normal brain and the abnormal brain. And if you can watch this movie without thinking Abby normal, we are not friends. It is that simple. That's the line. That's where we're going to be there. So once Fritz gets back to the laboratory with the brain, Dr. Frankenstein, because I refuse to call him Henry, Dr. Frankenstein is getting ready to raise his creation up into the storm. Apparently a house party breaks out where Elizabeth, Dr. Walden, Victor, and I believe Dr. Frankenstein's father, Baron von Frankenstein, everybody shows up at this place. And instead of telling everybody to go kick rocks, he invites everybody in to show off his experiment. After being struck by lightning, Frankie is brought to life. His hand moves and everything is ready. They get him off the table and they bring him into another room. And now this is really important to understand what Frankie is at this point. He is a newly created life form. He is just a wee baby boy, even though he's like 8 feet tall and put together and stitched together of several dead people. He is new to this world. And Abby normal brain, really kind of important. Now, that doesn't mean, or we don't know for sure, violent, criminally insane, just abnormal. He could have just been slow at learning, or, you know what I mean? Like, we don't have any reason to believe that Frankie is a monster up here. Dr. Frankenstein shows him to a chair and tells him to sit down, and without issue, Frankie sits. He even opens up a window so Frankie can see the moon, and he stands out and he tries to touch the moonlight and just observing and absorbing as much information as he can. When Fritz comes walking into the room with a flaming torch. Now take a second and think about this. You're hanging out in your living room, your kitchen, you're wherever, you're enjoying your night, you're with company, and some dude walks in with a flaming torch. Everybody would be freaking out at this point. And Frankie especially does not like fire. So Dr. Frankenstein tells Fritz to get that away from him, and jerk Fritz kind of torments him a little with it. Frankie defends himself and tries to get away from the flames, and they interpret it as him being violent, and they lock him up in the dungeon. This is so uncool. As essentially the father of Frankie, Dr. Frankenstein should be trying to protect Frankie at all costs. Not to mention, from a scientific point of view, he has proven exactly what he's wanted to do. You're going to let some dude named Fritz mess with him? If that's the kind of parent Dr. Frankenstein is going to be, Elizabeth should turn and run right now. To show even further what kind of person Fritz is, while Frankie is chained up in the dungeon, Fritz comes in and starts whipping him for no reason. Now, at this time, Dr. Walden and Dr. Frankenstein are discussing what should be going on with Frankie. Do they keep him alive? Do they kill him? Which is terrible, terrible, terrible. However, Frankie breaks out of the chains, grabs Fritz, strangles him, and hangs him around the rafters by the whip. Justice served. Instant karma. I was very, very happy at this moment. Because nobody should be messing with Frankenstein. He is just a wee baby boy and should be protected at all costs. Now keep this in mind as the rest of this review goes on. Now Dr. Frankenstein and Dr. Waldman at this point see Frankie as a threat and are trying to figure out what should be done. And they decide to kill Frankie. I'm very unhappy with this decision. So they go down to the dungeon with a syringe in hand, ready to inject and put down Frankie, who was just born. He's a baby. He's a toddler. He's a little thing. Frankie puts up a big fight because he's trying to protect himself, but he does get injected and does pass out. And as perfect timing has it, Elizabeth and Baron von Frankenstein show up to bring Henry back home for a wedding. What? How do you go from A to B so quick? Now, I'm going to make a statement that I am very pro-choice. I believe it is a woman's body, and she has the right to decide what happens to her and her baby. Therefore, it would be sexist if I said a man couldn't off his kid too. However, Dr. Frankenstein, I think running off to get married while leaving your buddy to do the dirty work just seems wrong. There's something a little off about that. Now, while Waldman, God, that's hard to say, is getting ready to euthanize the innocent baby boy, Frankie wakes up and in pure self-defense strangles that evil bad doctor. Now, I realize some signals might be getting crossed here. That is not for me to explain. I'm just talking about a movie. And now a very controversial scene, not only in the real world at the time of the release, but for this review as well. Now keep in mind, we are on Frankie's side during this. In the next scene, a negligent father farmer leaves his young daughter home alone. And this home, might I add, is by a large body of water, and this little girl, Maria, does not know how to swim. This father is the real monster here. Now, while Frankie is out and about, presumably trying to find his father who left him, he stumbles upon this little girl, and they start picking flowers together. And Maria teaches Frankie that if you throw these beautiful, innocent flowers into the water, they float, and it's a game. And it's cute, and they're going back and forth, and they're having a good time until Frankie runs out of flowers. So to keep the game going, he takes this innocent, pretty little girl and throws her into the water. But she does not float. She sinks. And this terrifies Frankie because he realizes he made a mistake. An innocent mistake that could have happened to any of us. Frankie runs away to find his dad because that's what a baby would do. You want to run to your parents for protection and safety. It is around this time that the very negligent father comes home and finds his daughter drowned in the water. And this is a very sad moment. It was a loss of innocence. And we should mourn this little girl. But this father has no idea what happened. And without any evidence, without any proof, without an eyewitness, without anything, he brings the body of his daughter into town and says she was murdered. The town breaks off into search parties to go search for this monster that they have just learned about that may or may not have killed a little girl, again with no proof, innocent until proven guilty, even if you are a creation of a mad scientist. That should be the new amendment. They manage to chase Frankie down, and Frankie runs into an old windmill, which they then set on fire. And to the best of our knowledge, Frankie gets pinned under some of the falling rafters. We know now, because of the sequels and the spin-offs, that somehow he survives, but we don't know how in this movie. So I have to say, without a shadow of a doubt, that Frankenstein's monster, our beloved Frankie in this movie, was the victim of bad parenting here. I believe we have to sympathize with Frankie here, or at the very least, on account of he was really only technically alive for a couple of days. He should be tried as a minor and not chased down by an angry mob that has no proof. Hashtag justice for Frankenstein's monster. I don't know if that is a hashtag that is going to take off, but I'm going to try. With that being said, we are now to my favorite part of this. We get to do the scratching. All right, the scratching off of Frankenstein from 1931. This here we have Dr. Henry Frankenstein. Worst name of a Frankenstein ever. Let's see what they put behind. Yeah, it's got to be his monster. Look at him. The wonderful Boris Karloff as Frankenstein's monster. There we go. Check him out. So that is the scratching off of the 1931 Frankenstein. Our next movie is Freaks from 1932, which I have known about for a very, very long time, but for some reason have not gotten around to watching. So I'm really glad that this is kicking my butt into gear to do that. In honor of this week's movie, I'm going to do a giveaway. I tried doing this on YouTube before and it didn't work with tagging people. So go over and check out my Instagram and my TikTok. There will be 2 chances to get your name drawn, one on each of them. And I'm going to give away a Frankenstein piece of art that I did. In order to enter, all you got to do is be following either TikTok or Instagram and comment in the post that I'm going to have up later today and tag a friend in it. And whoever wins, we will ship this to you. Hopefully that will be fun and we'll get to give out some art. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to watch this. I want to thank my Patreon followers whose names are coming up in just a second. And also you guys are going to have an immediate entry into that drawing just for having my back every month. That's super cool, you guys. Thank you very, very much. Mwah. Good luck to everybody. I'll have all the details of the drawing and when it's going to be done in the posts. I will catch you next Thursday. Later days. Hopefully you guys have seen this from my point of view and